And here's just a photograph of our aquaponics system. Now, for those that don't know what aquaponics is, essentially we have a fish tank in the background there with fish. And we've got these 4 grow beds in front here. And then we have water circulating always 24 hours a day from one bed to the next. And then it circulates back to the fish tank and then through the water, through the beds again. So what is happening is the fish poo from the fish, that ammonia has been converted into nitrites and nitrates, and that's what the plants are using as their nitrogen source, is the nitrates from the fish. So it's a nice balanced system where the fish are feeding the plants and the plants are essentially cleaning the water for the fish. So we have no filters on the system at all. So let's just give you a background of how our system works. And with the water, we have just polystyrene rafts which float on the water, and just the little cups containing our seedlings are placed in those holes that you can see there. So this allows the plant to sit on top of the water while the roots are always in the water. And so we have that conversion of ammonia into nitrates for the plants. So that's just our source of nitrogen. Now, the background for this one was every summer that we've grown here since we started, we've always experienced extreme temperatures, and the water in our system can get to 26, 29, sometimes 30 degrees, which is very high. And this causes all sorts of damage to the root structure, turning them brown. The roots slowly disintegrate and die off, and this causes the leaves to be very thin with no real weight or substance. They're not very healthy, and our lettuce is stunted, and sometimes it'll just start bolting. So we always have that problem in December time, and it takes much longer for our seedlings to grow, 6 or 7 weeks, because they're really battling against the elements all the time. So in this one, we had placed a bottle of our GANS in the water. So we had a mixture of seawater GANS, CO2, and CH3 that we had placed in the water.
This was a very small amount of GANS. It was literally just one little bottle with a little bit of GANS at the bottom and filled with water.
We just placed that into the water there, so you can see it was just sitting and floating in the water. And the arrow on the right shows you the grow bed there, and the arrow with where the bottle was sitting. So this was planted 19th of February, and then you see on the picture on the right, 25 days later, we had lovely, stunning lettuce. And it was 25 days later, and then when we look at the root structure there, it was quite incredible how nicely that the roots had been maintained white, and really, really healthy looking root structure there for the plants. And what we had done, we had only placed this bottle into one of our systems, and we've got 5 systems there, and so they're all separate and independent. And what we found was we had only placed the bottle into one of them, and then we watched how the other 4 systems were battling. And these were photographs that we had took on one of the hot days. It was 30 degrees outside. You could see on the left, the lettuce were wilting and just not coping with the sun. And you see the photograph there on the right. This was the lettuce that was in the system with the plasma bottle. And they were just so upright, as if there was no effect from the heat at all. The next photograph, coming through, was just showing you the difference in the root structure. You can see there's system 1 and system 2, sort of browning of the roots, not happily. If you actually go and pull on those roots, they would just pull off completely and disintegrate. Whereas the plasma system there, the roots were just so vibrant and really, really healthy looking. So that was a very noticeable effect. So our observations from this one was we had a very marked difference in the root structure of our lettuce grown with a plasma system. And we only saw this type of root structure during the cooler months of the year. So we're looking sort of from April till September time, never during our hot period. This was showing us that the plasma fields are allowing the plants to cope better with the higher water and air temperatures. So even though we were still sitting with close to 30 degrees in our water temperature there, the plants grew as if they were growing in water of 20 degrees. The high water temperature seemed to have no effect on them. The lettuce that were produced there was also much larger leaves. They were thicker and heavier, which resulted in a nice higher yield for us. And it also grew within the normal time from the seedling stage was about 4 weeks instead of the 6 to 7 weeks during our hot periods. And then we saw during the midday sun there that our normal lettuce would wilt, whereas the plasma lettuce would be able to cope with those heat conditions. So our lettuce were exhibiting, for us, they were exhibiting traits that we'd only see in the growing seasons of spring and autumn when it was cooler. And in this one, we'd only used about 50 mils of GANS mixture in 24,000 liters of water. That's how much water one of our systems contain. So you can, and it was in a bottle, so we had never put any of the GANS directly into the water. So it was just the fields coming through the bottle and into the water, which gave us those results. From then until now, what we have done is we've been slowly adding more and more bottles of GANS into our water. I think in some of our systems now, we've probably got about 10 or 12 bottles in each one of our systems. So we've really, really ramped up the number of GANS that we've got into our system. We've also got CO2, CH3, and zinc in all the grow beds, and we're going to continue to add. And before I carry on, it's just a reminder that we sometimes do get stuck, focused that these GANSes are a fertilizer. But just remember that they are not a fertilizer. All they're doing is changing the environment for the plants.
And then the plant is feeding itself.
Yes. So other observations between that first experiment and now is we've also been going through some very, very hot summer days with temperatures over 35 degrees Celsius. And we've seen the same thing. Our lettuces has not been affected by this heat at all. We've put the GANSes in all of our systems now, so we have nothing to compare against. But the results that we've seen over the summer month is quite incredible. We've constantly harvested healthy, very thick, heavy, and vibrant lettuce throughout the summer period. And this is our first summer where the heat has not had any effect on our production or quality. We're still producing the same amount of lettuce week in, week out, irrespective of the weather, whether we're having bits of rain and cooler weather or whether we're having temperatures and a couple of heat waves of over 35 degrees. And we think it's because we've added all these additional bottles of GANS in our water. So we've really, really increased the environment, field environment around our lettuces. So there probably appears to be a threshold on the amount of GANS we need in relation to our volume of water that we're using, but also for your environment. You know, when we look back at our tomato plant, we only had, same thing, 1 bottle in the system. And so it would be interesting, we'll try again during our winter months when we've got a lot more bottles of GANS in our water, whether we'll have the same effect, or maybe the additional GANS will have really added and increased that field strength around our plants. So we certainly seem to see that by adding more, we're getting better results.